Welcome, Olivia.
Can you guys hear us? Okay, good.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad that you're talking, right? You're willing to do this. When someone kind of nominates people, right? I'm like, I was begging Michelle, I was like, you got to give me the right person that care about this issue and help bring partners together. And you were the right person. So I was like, okay, don't let her hit me.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the right person. You guys are all have big hearts, and thank you for being here, and thank you for having me. And I'm just happy that I figured out how to join Zoom because we're used to using Teams, and I,
Oh, yeah.
I did it in one try.
Wow.
One try.
Yeah, between WebEx, learning how to be on
Oh.
WebEx, learning how to be on Zoom, learning how to be on Teams, I feel like constantly I'm one step behind where I should be, you know.
I had
Absolutely.
a meeting that I just went to the first one like 2 weeks ago. It's a weekly thing that someone set up in like Google Meets, and I was
Oh,
like, "What is this?"
Oh, not a whole nother
I
one.
know. I was like, "Who did this?" And the person in the meeting was like, "Me."
Yeah, not a whole nother one. Please don't do that to me.
Mitch and Emily, I have Allison and Roger here, if you're counting for quorum. I'm not sure how close we are.
We are at 6. So we'll couple more needed.
Mitch, since I don't know if you're on, but as the older I get, the more my memory is kind of failing. Could you, do you have the email that I sent you with the new members, just so I make sure that I have her? I'm missing 2 in my mind, and I don't know who those 2 are. I know Olivia, Randy, Farina. Go
I
ahead.
have the list. I'll send it to you. This is
Okay.
Emily. I'll send it to you just a moment.
Thanks, Emily.
And just as a note to those who have joined, please rename your full name and, if possible, your organization. And if you're able to, your pronouns as well. That would be really helpful so we can track who is in attendance.
Okay, we'll wait for a few more before we get started.
Yeah, she put it in the chat there also. I just scrolled down.
Oh,
So it's Randy.
oh,
Natasha with Rasmussen, Jasmine, Olivia, Toffee,
Coffee I'm still working on.
Farina, and Carrie. Yeah, we had a meeting with Toffee
I
2
know.
weeks ago.
So we're waiting on one more individual before we can, well, there actually, I think David just joined us.
Yeah, David was gonna jump on. He might have been a few minutes late, but he said he would
Okay.
get to us by 4:15, I think he said.
We should be good to go. We do have 8, and with Dave Mayo Keeley joining us a little later, that'll put us at 9, so we're good to go for quorum. And yeah.
Great, thank you. So now I'm at a loss. I'm usually on Zoom with us, so I don't quite know where to look. So I'll just look at you guys. No,
The owl will look at you.
though the owl, oh, I hate those owls. You never get me in the best light. I want to welcome everyone to the January meeting of the HPRS Advisory Council. I want to apologize that last month the meeting was canceled. You know, every year we have all the holidays and we continue to still plan things right in the middle of them and don't have a lot of a safety net. So this agenda was kind of pushed forward from the previous meeting, but we have some exciting new updates. So I want to go ahead and get started. I would just start by acknowledging that we're on Denina land, and I actually just spent an hour and a half meeting over at the Nuka building with South Central Foundation, and a beautiful display of the cultural aspect of land, community coming together. And if there's anything that we can do that just continues to support the efforts, then I just acknowledge and appreciate the land that they've stewarded for hundreds of years, and that we get the privilege of walking alongside them in it. So mission moment. I know we have a lot of people that are connected to great moments of which we get to realize why we're doing this work, why we continue in this space. And some moments remind us why we have to do more. So if anybody wants to share experience, happy to entertain those now. Roger.
I just wanted to comment on the Saturday Voice of the Homeless project, and how pleased I was to be able to get there and attend, but also at the not just the facilitators that stepped up, but the sincerity that they were received by the homeless community and the individuals who were there looking for a venue to express their voice. And I really felt that they accepted that as something really being authentic, as being a outreach that had meaning to them. And those things are so important for the folks who are in challenging circumstances. Meaningful things to spend their time at is huge. And I was pleased to spend some meaningful time myself at it. So it was awesome.
Good.
Let's see, I might be able to, this is Jessica. All right, I'm gonna take over screen sharing for just a minute.
That's when you know you have power.
Uh-huh.
If all of a sudden you can take over screen share and
Because
let's look at all her emails. No.
I know, did you notice how fast I clicked off of my chats there? Kim is laughing right now because we've had this conversation, but I'm sharing hopefully on my screen right now. This is a picture from that Saturday event.
Great.
So this picture was taken at the wrap up after we had gone through, I think, 45 minutes or an hour of 5 or 6 different breakout sessions.
Wow.
And everybody came back, and everybody in the room spoke as to what had transpired in those meetings, what they were bringing out of it, and how they saw themselves contributing moving forward. And I thought Julie did a very awesome job facilitating or leading the discussions, and we didn't get sidetracked. Nobody got angry, and everybody felt heard.
Great. That's great. Is there opportunities for more of these, or was this a one and done kind of scenario? For the new members, I'll try to go back and forth and kind of translate, and I'm going to welcome you in a minute, but this was an opportunity put on by the Humanities Forum, funded by the Humanities Forum, to bring voice and space for voice. And so we had wonderful people. I know, Lisa, you had a big role in kind of helping make sure that it not only recorded, but that we've had learnings from it. I know Robin, you were in attendance and, you know, a bunch of people, but this was a space that was done on Saturday. And so I'm just curious, is it planned for subsequent or?
Yes, so when we applied for this grant, we actually applied for it. Lisa, I want to say it was almost a year ago now when we first submitted the application. It was a while ago. And what we wanted to do and the way we wrote this grant was to talk with people who are currently experiencing homelessness or have recent lived experience with homelessness or housing insecurity about what barriers exist for them to get involved. Because we really want to promote and bring spaces that are accessible and available to people experiencing homelessness, to give that advice and feedback back and really elevate those voices in a leadership way. So this session was intended to say, what are all of the barriers that exist for you and how can we make these spaces accessible? And now what we want to do is create those spaces. So now that we have that feedback of, you know, I think overwhelmingly what we heard a lot of was transportation, you know, when these events are held or when there's things like assembly meetings where people want to give, you know, that kind of feedback, getting to the location, getting home from the location. So assembly meetings are held in the evenings and we know
Right.
that bus routes get real spotty in the evenings. And so figuring out ways that we can either bring the spaces to the people or bring the people to the spaces, I think is going to be really important. Also figuring out how we can create that method of compensation. So one of the things that we were able to do with this particular event that we wrote into the grant was compensation for the people who were participating. You know, we don't ask people to do any labor for free,
Yeah,
emotional or
yeah.
otherwise. So we were able to compensate everybody who came and participated. But we don't want to create a lot of spaces where we ask people to do that emotional labor for free.
Yeah, yeah.
So some of it is going to be pulling all of that together now and then having those spaces. And then on our agenda today is going to be a conversation about how this group has worked and passed a resolution to bring a space of lived experience advice to the advisory council. So I think if you had asked me a year ago if we'd be in this space right now, I'm not sure I would have said we would. And I'm really excited that not only have we had some of these initial conversations, but we are creating the ability to have that compensation and to have that really accessible space. So that was a really long answer to that. But yes, the intent was that this creates more of those spaces, but hopefully not that same topic.
Right.
Hopefully we now get into the, how would you improve the system? Not just how can we help you get into a place to give advice on improving the system?
Good.
And if I could,
Go ahead.
if
Go,
I could,
Lisa.
I'm sorry, could I real quick, I just wanted to just thank Robin because she became a great partner for this. The event was at Third Avenue Resource and Navigation Center. It was a great space for this event and just really appreciate Robin partnering with us on it. It made all the difference. And I wanted to also, 'cause I just went through all the notes from it. And so I'm just going to read one since it's a mission moment. There's just lots of just beautiful things that people said. There was a lot of need expressed, but also just some nice wording. And one person said, quote, "If you want to help someone, be their friend as a human." And I just liked that.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Thanks for bringing that forward. That simple reminder of the best we can be in space is genuine, real, and connected, right? Before we go through kind of the agenda and get a motion on the minutes and the approval of it, I do want to welcome a couple of new council members. So we decided at the last couple of meetings that we were going to be appointing about 5 people to the council. And they would be remaining in these positions through June. It's our job to be really nice to them so that maybe they'll run in June, you know, for a full term. but we'll get out, sending out the cards and the, candy a little later. But I want to welcome, Randy Brager, who is the, CEO over at Awake. One of the desperate connections that we need to remain close with, our work is the DV work. And so Randy, thank you. I think she was maybe a week into it and I said, Randy, I think you're gonna need to be on this council. So, thank you, Randy, for doing that. Also, always the people that are voluntold, but Olivia Lorenzo, who is Vice President over at South Central Foundation over primary care. Also a big, connection that we need to make stronger is healthcare, behavioral health, and that space in which they intersect. And so thank you for your willingness to at least serve until you understand what we're doing and make sure that you're the right person, but I'm really grateful. The other three, so Farina Brown is going to be joining as an ex officio member, as well as Carrie Collins. Farina, if you don't know Farina is a special assistant to the mayor on, the experience of homelessness in this community. She'll be a great advocate for it. It also, government is one of the entities that need to make sure is close, as well as public housing. So therefore, Carrie Collins with Alaska Housing Finance. I think we're waiting for Brian to voluntold her, but we should be hearing that one pretty soon. And then another great person that is willing to step in is Natasha Panida. It's about time we have kind of private philanthropy listening in this space and being a part of it. She's very excited about it and will be joining us. And the last person that I'm continuing to beg, and I haven't successfully done it yet, but if anybody knows Taffy, really trying to bring some unique voices to the space and would really like her to participate. I know Roger is also following up on one or two people that also may join. We have 5 spots, but we also ex officio don't count toward those 5. So we still have a couple of spots, but we will be scheduling an orientation pretty quick and then our kind of half-day retreat that will get us all on the same page quickly. So you don't have to flounder in this space like some of us did for years. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then if anybody has any further ideas for suggestions,
Yeah,
more the
Totally.
merrier.
yep, totally. So, so let's get started on the agenda. Do I have approval for the minutes? And November minutes is what we're gonna be approving. And then any discussion on the agenda?
Oh, Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thanks, Sharon and Will. Anyone have anything they would like to add to the agenda? Okay. Well, let's jump in. So I know that next week is our point in time. And we all recognize the challenges that exist in our state with point in time happening in the middle of winter. But we also have a very dedicated group really trying to bring about some new connections in a lot of different spaces. So we're going to turn this over to Jess, who is going to be talking to us about the point in time and then also giving us an update on the shelter utilization that is happening, emergency cold weather and otherwise. So to you.
All right. I'm gonna take over sharing again.
Not to sidetrack us, did we approve the meeting minutes with the agenda?
Usually we combine them. So when you do the consent, I think they both, unless there was an opposition, that's kind of my take. Did you have some corrections in the minutes or anything?
No.
Okay.
I
Oh, you just wanted to make
I
sure. it was-
wasn't sure I heard the right motion.
Got it.
Just for clarification, this is Emily, hello. The consent agenda is exactly what Allison just said, is if it's approved, it kind of encompasses it all. That way you only have to do one motion.
Yeah. But if anybody has any corrections in the minutes, those can be added, even though there's been an approval on the table. I mean,
Correct.
yeah.
All
Okay.
right, so point in time count, I'm going to share first some information about the sheltered point in time count and the housing inventory count that goes along with it. Because I know Kim is on, and in case Kim has to leave early for any reason, I want to cover the part that affects, or that she's leading first. If you are a provider that the sheltered point in time count or housing inventory count applies to, you should have gotten an email from ICA yesterday, I believe. But there are some changes to how that's going to happen, so I want to run through those really quick. And then Kim can jump in if I get anything wrong. If you have done this in the past, you'll remember that there was a process where you would pull all of that information in terms of your inventory that existed on the night of the count, as well as your census on the night of the count. So this year, what's going to happen is a representative from ICA is going to meet with each agency to help them complete that submission. In the past, what happened was the providers submitted it, ICA reviewed it, then they would get back with the providers, and you ended up with this back and forth of looking at the data quality and figuring out like, oh, hey, you turned in a census of 108, but your bed count was only 102, and
Yeah.
you know, like what was going on, or vice versa. You submitted a census of 20 and your inventory. So by making that connection right up front, we're hoping that we avoid the back and forth and just have it be done. So the night of the point in time count is the night of January 27th. That's Monday night, this upcoming Monday. So it's going to be anyone who was sheltered or housed, depending on what type of program you have, on that night. The deadline to enter everything into AKHMIS, or if you are a DVSA provider that is using an HMIS equivalent, is Friday, February 7th. So all of that information needs to be entered and complete. So if you needed to exit people, whatever has to happen, make sure it's all complete by that Friday. And then ICA is going to have all of those scheduled calls that next week. So hopefully that makes it to where we have all of our information done much sooner and much cleaner. If you're running a night by night shelter, and if you run a shelter, you know, if you are a night by night shelter or an entry exit shelter, you do have to, and this is not any different than it's been in the past, you do have to exit everyone out of the shelter and then re-enter them back in. So that way you make sure you only are counting the people who actually spent the night at the shelter that night, versus what we know happens where some shelters have a policy where they'll hold the beds for a certain number of hours or a certain number of days. So we want to make sure we exit everyone, enter them back in. And then last, even if you didn't serve anyone on the night of the count, I don't think that applies to very many programs here in Anchorage, but if it applies to you, you should be hearing this. You still have to meet with ICA. You still have to submit how many beds you had available.
Okay.
And I encourage you, if you had beds available and they were not full on the night of the pit, please contact us and
Yeah.
talk to us about why and how we can help make that happen. A few other pieces of information. The address of the shelter is very important. Make sure that you have that address. This is the time when we also have traditionally made sure all of the information in HMIS about that project is accurate and up to date. So have all of that information ready, especially if something has changed. So if you've had leadership change or data contact changes, if you have families, if you are serving families, you're going to want to have that information about how many units and how many people because family, shelter beds are counted a little bit different and recorded a little bit different. And then if you have overflow beds at your particular shelter, they don't get counted in your total number of beds, but we need to know how many of them were occupied. The same thing with seasonal beds. We need to know which beds are seasonal beds and how many of those were occupied. And then if you have any dedicated beds that are for veterans or transition age youth, it's very important that we know that those are set aside beds for that specific population. And that doesn't apply to everyone, but everyone gets to hear it. Kim, what did I miss?
Do you have volunteers or do you need?
Go ahead, Allison.
Oh, I was just asking if, structure of it, do you have enough volunteers? Is it outreach teams doing it?
Well, that's gonna be the unsheltered one. We'll go to that one next.
Yeah, okay.
But I wanted
Got
to
it.
cover sheltered first, since we do have people here who are in the sheltered count, and that's sometimes a tricky one.
Overall, I think you did great. One thing I would just clarify with the night by night shelters, we're not saying that they need to have an exit with like an exit destination and a new enrollment with, you know, all of the data intake that goes with the new enrollment. It's really just like starting from a clean attendance sheet for that night. So it's not like a data lift. You're not having to recollect any sort of data. You're just starting from a blank unit list for that evening and rebuilding it just to ensure that it's really just the folks there that evening. The other piece is for the non-participating projects. I don't see anybody here on the call, but if anybody has any tight connections with Downtown Hope Center and the rescue mission, if you could reach out to them and remind them that this is coming and they do need to collect demographics for that night, that would be really helpful. So it's something we struggle with the projects that aren't participating either in a DV comparable system or an HMIS directly. I think those were my only two additions.
Thank you, Kim. That does remind me. ACH did make contact with Pastor John at Gospel Rescue, but I'm not sure we had connected yet with Downtown Hope Center, so I will check our staff too, but yeah. All right, moving to the unsheltered count. So the other side of the point in time count is counting people who aren't in shelter. How we have done that in the past and how we are planning on doing that again this year is by pulling together service providers who do outreach as a regular part of their job and service providers who want to do outreach on this particular 2 days together. We do have 2 people right now that are also just community members that have been doing outreach on their own that want to be part of this as well. So they are coming in and doing this also. Our only requirement is that everyone who is going out has to be trained. We do some training on how to respond if somebody doesn't want to be counted or gets aggressive in a camp. That's something that not everyone has encountered in their day-to-day life. And so we want to make sure everyone is prepared going out. So if you yourself are thinking about doing this and want to do this, please reach out to me and I'll make sure you get some training. We did do one large group training Monday of this, or Tuesday, sorry, Monday was a holiday, Tuesday of this week. So we do have a bunch of people who have checked that box already. But how the unsheltered count works is that ACH coordinates teams. We assign them zip codes, we give them maps. I'm going to do this very high level. My training is about an hour long, but very high level. We start with the map that is the camp reports through the GIS map to the Muni. We then add to that places where we know there's camps. So we know there's camps in places that aren't reported, and there's a slew of reasons why that might be. We add them manually to our maps. And then last, we overlay that with places where we know people hang out during the day. So they may not be at their camp. And so we want to make sure that we're making connections with people who maybe sleep in an encampment, but then go to the library during the day, or the mall, or the Midtown Walmart. And so those are all places that the point in time count teams will go and survey people. I'm going to walk through the survey pretty quickly. Not much has changed from prior years. So it looks really similar. The survey itself can be done in two different ways. It can be an interview encounter where you are talking to the person and you are gathering this information directly. Or it can be what we call an observational count, which means I can't talk to them or they don't want to talk to me. We want to make sure everyone gets counted regardless of whether or not they want to give us information, but we want to gather as much information as we can, because one of the things that is important that we do, and when I say we, global we, Kim and her team, we deduplicate this. So there might be someone who spent the night at Gospel Rescue Mission and then the next day they're at Walmart. We want to make sure they don't get counted twice. So gathering the information is really important, and that's part of why we want to make sure that they are teams going out that are aware of what they're doing. Ideally, they are someone that people who are unsheltered have had contact with in the past. So we're going to record where did the encounter occur? Anchorage for us. There is an informed consent statement, so we want to make sure we're really clear with people. You don't have to answer any of these questions. You can stop anytime you want to. Everything is kept confidential. All we do with these reports is use them for deduplication and gathering the demographic data. Once we're done, they go away. We delete them. And if you agree to participate, we read the questions, you answer, we record your answer. We tell people it takes approximately 10 minutes. Your first few probably do take about 10 minutes, but after a while you get really good at it. And you can usually do it a little bit faster. So the first question we ask is, have you already had this survey? We do have little goodie packs that go out with the point in time count teams. If someone has already been interviewed and they're like, but I want that pack, give them a pack. I have extras.
Yeah.
So you're gonna ask their name. You're gonna ask where they were sleeping on the night of the count. This is easy to do on Tuesday. It gets a little bit harder on Wednesday. Tuesday, you're asking, where'd you sleep last night? Our questions or our answers, our options are a lot of different options. And then there's always an other. So I always counsel people, if somebody gives you an answer that doesn't quite fit in one of these, just put it in other, we'll figure it out. And by we, I mean Kim. We ask if they were with a household or by themselves. If they're with a household, if it is, that's going to get counted as a family unless it is a couple situation. It is important that we do this survey for every single person. If they are with a household, we're just going to gather that information for all of them. It is important that we make sure we're talking to the head of household if we are doing an unsheltered count for a family, because we want to make sure that person can tell us about the kids. Age categories, these are 10-year ranges here. If the person doesn't want to answer, we have to put something in there. So I tell people, make a good educated guess at how old they are. Gender, they are allowed to say unknown or prefers not to answer, but there are all of the options that exist in HMIS, or I believe almost all of the options that exist in HMIS are gender options here. Race and ethnicity, you can mark all that apply. So there can be multiple answers here, or again, the unknown or prefers not to answer option there. Then we ask some questions about how long that person has been experiencing homelessness. This is to determine how many people are chronic. So these questions should look really familiar to people who work in HMIS a lot. And then disability, this is another one. They can mark as many as apply or none or prefers not to answer. We then ask a DV question and ask a military question. If the person answers yes to having served in the military, there's a supplemental section for veterans. This is information that will be shared with the VA if they answer it. So we want to make sure we're telling them that this is something that we will then share with the VA so that the VA can make connections with them on available resources. veteran information. If they do say, yes, they're a veteran, and they do fill out that part with their information, they do have to sign. So they have to sign to acknowledge that they are releasing that information to the VA. If they are not a veteran, there's no signature on this survey.
Is there the same thing with the DV? Is there a drop down or is it just a
Oh,
yes or
sorry.
no?
On the DV, if you answer yes, they just ask, I can't really see it here. They ask, were you fleeing DV on the night of the count?
Okay.
So, there's not any other supplemental questions about what kind of DV or anything like that. And then, down here at the bottom is your information as the person who was, performing the survey. And then if you have an agency affiliation, what that agency affiliation is. And then this one section down at the bottom for additional notes. So if something, about the situation you feel needs to be recorded here, sometimes someone will answer the first 3 questions and then they are done. They have reached their limit of time that they want to stand here and talk to you. So you could put that in the additional notes, like the reason why all the rest are preferred not to answer was because they walked away from me.
Yeah,
So if there's, I'm trying to think of last year, we had a couple that were additional notes where like they said there were no other family members or no minors, but I very clearly saw a child
Yeah.
in the tent
Right.
behind them.
Yeah.
So like some things like that where you might be noting something about an observation. So I tell people use the other box and use the additional notes if there's something that just didn't fit in all of the questions.
And then when you hit submit, where does it go?
So when you hit submit, it goes to, this is set up in FormStack, so it goes to kind of a secure storage folder that ICA is the only one who has access to. If people are doing this on paper, so when we send the teams out, we send them with paper forms and the link for the electronic form. There are some people who will only do it on the electronics. There are some people who will only do it on paper. And then there are people like me that will use whichever one works for me at that particular moment.
Yeah. Right.
Anyone who does it on paper, it comes back to us at the coalition and we enter it. So everything ends up in this online system here. And then ICA uses that along with the submissions from the shelters to deduplicate. This unsheltered count happens on Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, you might see someone both days and they might want the goodie bag both days. And so they might answer the questions both days. And so we want to make sure they only get counted once. Yeah, I think that was the gist of it. I hope I kept that to about 10 minutes.
And if there are additional notes, like if someone says, you know, this was a volatile situation, it needed X, Y, Z. How responsive are we from the collection of the information to being able, you know, that I'd hate for someone to disclose of a situation, but it takes a week for that.
That is not something I would suggest putting in the additional notes. Something urgent like that, I would suggest, and what I've been telling the people I've been training, my job those 2 days is going to be air traffic controller from this office. So as people run out of things, as people can't find a camp, they're going to be corresponding with me. My advice has been to the people I've trained so far, please text me. Please send me a text that says, here's my pin drop on my Google map. Something wild is happening at this camp. And we can respond much faster in that way. The notes are more about, like, they said there were no kids, but I swear I saw kids, or they said their name was Joe, but I know that this is Dave.
Yeah.
So, but things like that will help us in the deduplication or in the gap, you know, the recording of the data itself.
Okay, thanks for that presentation. Do we have any questions from you in the room or on screen?
I have some questions, and so
Go for it.
I wasn't sure how formal we are with using Robert's rules, so I'm just gonna go for it, and hopefully folks have.
I don't even know how to spell it. I don't know how to spell it, so I'm not the leader for that one.
All right. So I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions, and again, bear with me. You guys might already know the answer, and so this is my first time. The survey that we just looked at, how often is that completed?
Just once per year. So the point in time count is an unfunded mandate from HUD. So
Okay.
HUD says that every COC is required to do this, on this, we get like a 7-day window or a 6-day window. So we are required to choose a day in that window and do it. So we just do it once per year. In the past, Anchorage as a whole has sometimes done a second point in time count in the summertime, because we know that we have a lot of seasonal shelter and we have a lot of seasonal homelessness. So trying to get an accurate count at 2 points throughout the year. We stopped doing that when outreach got a little bit more robust. I feel like we get a decent count and a decent coverage year round, just observationally from outreach, but HUD only requires us to do it once per year, so we only do it once per year.
So on the survey itself, I noticed the social security number, and I think that's just occurs when if the person is a veteran, is that right?
Yep.
And so what if do you ever get a point where that person you're speaking with doesn't have or doesn't remember their social security number?
All the time. So,
Okay.
yes.
And what
So
is the
there is-
process when that happens?
Yeah, so there is an option on that spot where you can say the person doesn't know, the client doesn't know their social. My advice and my recommendation is always get as much as you can, because anything will help us. What that social security number is used for the VA is to check for the benefits. So we know a lot of people have common names, and so it just gives us that extra point of reference. If they don't know their date of birth and their social, that's gonna be much harder. But usually the chances of there being multiple people who have the same name and the same date of birth,
Yeah.
the social security number is like the tiebreaker from those two, so.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering, is that clients, those are used for obviously probably to determine ease of application, but it's not going to be a barrier to someone getting the services that they need. And same thing for the VA. Will the VA do whatever it is that they need to do to contact if there's a number or assess?
Yep.
Okay. And do we have like again, I'm new, so sorry for all these questions. And so if we've done this in the past and we've gotten a number, what is the percentage of time that is a VA? And then what is the percentage of time that the VA is actually contacting the client back and we've had success?
So I'll go backwards. The second time is 2 separate numbers because you added that last little bit. The number of time, or the percent in which the VA contacts the person, 100%. The percent of time in which the VA successfully contacts the person, I'm gonna say probably about 90. It's pretty high. I think we do a really good job in our community of connecting veterans to the services. The challenge is usually with capacity at the veterans services, like VA and SSVF, how fast they can get to that particular person. And then that person staying in contact, especially if it's someone who's unsheltered. You may make that initial contact, say, at the LUSAC library, and they say, I camp near Lake Otis and Tudor, but when it comes time to connect with them again, you've lost them. So we do a lot of that, kind of, you lose them and then you find them again a month later and you make it a little bit further down the process. I see Robin's face, like she knows. So the harder part is keeping in contact with that person the entire time you need to get them the full benefits. But both SSVF and the VA, the attempts of the contacts, 100%.
Thank you. Just two more questions. And so what is the percentage of the clients that you see that have surveyed are veterans?
Oh, what is our veteran? It's not a high percentage. Veterans are about 100-ish right now out of our 3,000.
Yeah. Yes. And it goes by self-report until, they are
Yes.
verified as being eligible for
Yep.
services. So yeah, it ends up being about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The veteran, of course, is a self-report. So if a person says they're a veteran, we assume they are until proven otherwise. And the opposite, if someone says they're not a veteran, even if they are a veteran, like we don't know. So it is a self-report. We're not quite integrated with the VA to the level where we can identify veterans who say they aren't.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great questions for a first
Yeah.
timer.
And I remembered, as you were talking, I remembered the problem with the online survey that's not fixed yet, but will be before Tuesday, is that we added an additional question. So you'll remember last year we added a question where we asked people about the primary cause of their homelessness. This year, that additional question is centered around why that person chose to be outside that night. And there's many answers, they can answer, like check as many boxes as apply, it's one of those. But some of the answers that are the offered answers would be shelters are full, I don't like the provider, I have a pet, I have a significant other, my disability prevents me from going to shelter. The shelter location doesn't work for me. So lots of different options there, but what we're hoping to do is drill down a little bit on the people who are still outside, what is keeping them from shelter, so that we can make sure as we work hand in hand with the municipality on designing and standing up cold weather shelter, particularly because we asked this question in January, how do we make that shelter the most accessible to people who want it? And then the people who don't want that shelter, what are some of those reasons? So that we can, really be as responsive as we can to everybody who's experiencing homelessness. So it is not on the online survey yet, but it will be before Tuesday. And we try to limit those extra questions to one. I think 10 minutes is about the max, especially in January, you'll get someone to talk to you. So while there is no limit to how many extra questions we add, the time and the fact that it will always be the last question, we've chosen to limit it to one for the past few years. And
do you encourage those that you train to approach cars that are parked in neighborhoods as opposed to camps?
We do, we talk really carefully about it. When cars are reported as camps, definitely, they're on our list and on our radar. If they are seeing cars that they think look like someone might be staying in, yes. And the teams, nobody goes out by themselves. In fact, I don't think this year we even have any teams of 2. I think everyone is a team of at least 3. So just kind of the same cautions we give to outreach all the time, like, announce yourself loudly before you even get there. Wait and see what you hear. Say, hey, I have some items for you and I'm doing a survey as part of a HUD count. Are you interested in talking to me? Is anyone in there? Are you experiencing homelessness? Like, trying to get some of that out before you get up there. The same thing when you're approaching a tent, treating it kind of that same way. That is that person's home. And so you want to be really respectful, and you wouldn't want someone to come up and plaster their face against the front window of your house.
Yeah.
And
Well, it'd be interesting too, to see where they might be counted, because, even the vehicles in my neighborhood, they're not there during the day.
yes,
They're there.
exactly.
You
And
know,
that's
so-
why we're really hoping.
So if we're counting them, we might count them at Walmart, or we might count
Yep.
them,
Yep.
someplace else or another program.
Yep.
They're there at night,
Yep.
in those spaces. So, well, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
How do you plan to handle the large camps?
Oh, so the large camps, we're gonna have larger groups going to, right now, the 2 that are obviously Davis is on our radar, and then down back behind the Ramada is a decent sized camp now. Larger groups will do that. We are planning on doing it tent to tent and not doing, kind of pop-up style where we set up and hope people come to us.
Yeah.
But it is gonna be a larger group to try to canvass it quickly. We don't want to have a team of 3, you know, spending hours and
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
doing that. We wanna try to be as least disruptive as possible. So we, you know, we don't want it to be, you know, our teams tromping through for a long period of time. The other one that is decently, well, I guess there's 2 other ones kind of that I would call like the next tier, what I would call maybe a medium camp, by C Street Gardens, is decently large. And then on, Campbell Creek down, I always say behind the peanut farm, but it's not really behind the peanut farm. It's more like the other side where it runs down between, Dowling and International right there. So those ones will have a larger team that goes out to them, and just tries to get it over with.
So for both for Davis, the snow dump, and the Ramada camp,
Mhm,
which is significant.
mhm.
Harak has emissaries in there already that we would love to help introduce, and
great.
they can give the camp knowledge, hey, this is coming.
That would be
It's
great.
innocuous, they're gonna help us, which, so.
That would be great.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Jess.
Yep.
Stay warm. It's a cold night, you know?
It's supposed to rain all the way up
Ah.
until that night. And then it's supposed to get down to 9 degrees. I am so stoked to be the person navigating from the opposite.
And do you guys have plenty of like, yellow jackets and,
Yeah.
right, okay. I was gonna say, we
We're
get a lot
super
of,
visible.
we get a lot of
And please,
donations of those and
Yeah.
I.
both of those camps are major ice right now, and it's
Yeah,
Wow,
kind of gotten interested on the hill behind Ramada for a couple of
oh
folks,
my
but
gosh.
it has. Yeah, I have a big box of cleats and I'll be getting a couple more before Tuesday. Anyone who doesn't have them, I will make sure they have them. And we have lots of high vis gear that we give out and people wear.
Okay, so next, we're gonna talk a little bit about HRAC. Now, Jess asked me a question earlier. Is it HRAC? Is it
Harac.
Harac? What is the correct? And then what does it stand
correct
for?
pronunciation is as a crow would say, Harak.
Harac,
Okay.
okay.
They make
Harak.
yeah, so that, was, logo that Kerry, created for us in the day was for Harak.
Okay,
And so it is,
and it stands for,
it was, when it was formed, originally, it was the Houseless Resource Advisory Council.
got it,
And so it was intended to help be the point of the coalition, but then to start empowering folks out front to do some pre-organizing.
got it. So, there was for new members plus about 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. There was a resolution that was passed by this council, asking for the reinstatement of it, acknowledging the unfortunate way it was disbanded as a group, but stressing the importance of how we want that space
To honor that voice.
to honor that voice, yeah. And so I did check, it was signed, it is reinstated, it is active. Now, I would ask if I have any members on the council that would be willing to step up to help lead that. And I see led by Roger anyway, but we definitely want to make sure that the resources are provided in order to make the voice and make the space and prioritize the information coming back to us. Because you are a sub of the council, and are you a sub of the coalition as well? How does that work?
It's just of the advisory council
Okay.
right now, and then the advisory council has a seat on the ACH board.
Yeah.
And so I think our intent was that we would be funneling the information through that way. We can definitely have that conversation with the ACH board.
Yeah.
If you would ever like to make a presentation or anything like that.
Yeah, and on behalf of ACEH, while this was formed back in the day, that was before we bifurcated.
Yeah,
That was before, and so, you know, when it was disbanded, we were kind of in this gray area of where exactly does the voice exist?
Mhm.
But we had a very active voice in the community and a collective voice. And so, getting back to that, whether it's the Houseless Resource Advisory Council, or its name was actually in one of our, logo changes, updated to the Houseless Resource Advocacy Council.
Mm.
But the, campers out there, and what was really came out loud and clear Saturday was they remember that. They remember the coalition, they remember the efforts, they, you know, the stuff, and that, they would like to continue that voice, whether, we go back and pick that up or not, but also they was very clear that they would like for me to help organize and lead them. That I've been out in front long enough that they trust my voice to come up under me, and I would be very interested in helping the HPRS lead them to establish their voice in a way that they accept the roles that they will play and the accountability they will have in the community.
well, I for one nominate Roger. Do we have any other people that want to join this, or you know, I appreciate your engagement and the history of it. And really see this as an opportunity to continue to have it, you know, and I want to make sure too, like, one of the things we'll have to figure out if it sits with us, we've kind of had this uncompensated role, and you know, I wish that there was a way that there was compensation attached to it. And I don't, you know what I mean? So,
That's
so
another
we're trying to
aspect
figure it
of the
out.
awkwardness
Yeah.
of, you know,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah,
I'm confident that we will find a way if we keep looking.
yeah,
And just acknowledging it as a voice is huge to the community, and there was a lot of excitement in the camps when I said, hey, we're getting that voice back. And back in the day before Centennial Park and whatnot, there was a sense of camaraderie,
Mhm.
and there were a lot of folks that are still out there in homelessness who were able to bring their voice forward,
Mhm.
and are looking to do that again. And so,
Well, we look forward. You know, I don't know if it sits as a committee, whatever, we can think about what the
so
dynamic, but.
my co-chair on the compliance committee is not here. She's been on leave. I do look forward to bringing up with her the possibility of it existing under the compliance committee, and we kind of do the lived experience
Oh,
component.
yeah,
That's one possibility.
well, that's one way that you're on one committee instead of two. No.
I was just gonna say, I think that works, and I don't think of the way to say this super nicely, because I love Roger and I hope Roger never ever goes away. But if the person who was leading that lived experience advisory group weren't the person who also was serving in a leadership
Oh.
role on the compliance committee, I want to make sure that the leader of that group always has a seat at the executive committee. That, I think, was part of the intent of that, was that leader would sit in
The
a
leader-
leadership role.
The leader of the compliance committee?
No, the leader of the compliance committee always does.
Right.
So, but having this be a committee structure under the advisory council would ensure that the chair or leader of the lived experience committee would also be on the executive committee. And so when it's you, it's both of you. I mean, you're both of
Yeah.
them and you were there, but yeah.
And instead of a subordinate committee, another
Maybe like a
another
companion committee.
companion
Okay.
committee,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm asking those
No.
because
Or
as
we
I
could do,
draft the updates to the governance
Yeah,
charter, I'd wanna
yeah.
make sure we were clear on
Yeah.
how we.
we could do the
Organize that.
co-chairs with one co-chair designated lived
could work, too.
experience
Yeah.
and the other one,
Mhm.
something else or, so.
Well, I look forward to it getting back in action and I look forward to creating great spaces that
Yeah,
the voices.
And I earlier sent a few of you a copy of one of the old newsletters.
Yeah.
And it was really a lot of nostalgia in there.
Mhm.
Remember where we were,
Yeah.
3 years ago, 2
Yeah.
years ago?
Oh my
um,
gosh.
And the battle we were fighting then and how much has changed today and how much, through that change is still our, what we need to accomplish is just getting clearer and clearer.
Yeah.
And so,
So, I do appreciate that we're kind of getting to time. I know that I don't know if there are any committee members that have a burning desire to do an update from one of the committees. I will say within the next 2 weeks, you guys will get some information. One, the new members about orientation. Two, all council members to kind of pick a date that we can, do our, whether you call it a retreat or an action meeting that kind of lays out kind of what some of our strategic integration from the anchored home plan to what work we want to be doing as a council. But just so we don't go run too far over, is there any kind of burning desires from committee members that they want to bring forward or put on the record? Wow. Oh, well.
Not actually with respect to the committees, but it's on the agenda, not on this. I just wanted to, I volunteered when Grace left to make sure we kept the conference in New Orleans on the mind. So just want to see if anything needs to be done for that.
Yes, so I saw it on the agenda too and was like, great, we're gonna talk about it, and I'm so glad Will said that because I had forgotten it was on the agenda. We do have funds available to support one person going to that conference, so I know we had talked about potentially having maybe an application process where anyone who was interested in that spot or going to that conference could like fill that out, and then maybe the executive committee looks at those. I'm open to all of the different things, but I am going to, before it fills up, put in a placeholder registration on it. And then we are talking internally about who might be interested from the coalition staff in going as part of their professional development. And then I think ICA has 1 or 2 people
Whoever
going. as well.
goes gets to hang out with me for 3 days.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
Maybe we'll see snow there.
Wow,
For real.
yeah.
The information that we have been getting about the conference is it is the same week as Jazz Fest, and so ideally a room needs to get reserved ASAP.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that at the very least there's a room for whoever it is that decides is going.
Yeah, and whoever goes, there's a wonderful Covenant House program right on Bourbon Street. So whenever you guys go, let me know and I'll get you guys a tour and everything. They have a great program there. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I will have a placeholder registration and hotel room.
got it.
So you might be checking in under my name.
And just a reminder, I see the note from Sharon. There is notes from the data committee's meeting in your packet. So you have that, and from the advisory council, from the, the compliance committee. There's some notes in there as well. Okay, any questions, last minute questions? To answer your question, Randy, yes, we will be trying to pick not only the retreat time, but kind of orientation, and we'll probably do those through kind of some type of doodle poll, but we'll make sure it gets out. Okay. Seeing and hearing none, I want you guys to have a safe night out there on this ice skating rink. Remember, here are the upcoming opportunities for advocacy. It's on the agenda. and, good luck on the point in time count next week.
Something that's not on this list, but I want to throw out, if you are, receiving ACH's newsletters, you probably already got it, but there is a save the date that went out. The CE conference, that is I can call it an annual one now because this will be year 2. But we are joining forces with the municipality. They wanted to hold a, housing summit, and we said we were already planning this particular event, so it is now a two-day event that will have a variety of sessions related to coordinated entry training, coordinated entry information, and then as well as some large discussions about the state of homelessness and the HPRS in Anchorage and what upcoming opportunities exist. ACH is bringing up David Canavan, who, if you were around during the pandemic time, he is with HUD Disaster TA, and he came up and spent some time here in Anchorage helping us get organized as we very quickly decompressed shelters and created the Sullivan Arena, and that we all know turned into its own thing. But he is really familiar with just how far Anchorage has come and just how much further we have to go. So we're really excited to have him come up and speak at this conference as well. So if you didn't get that saved to date and you are interested in information, let me know. Allison mentioned the beautiful space over at South Central Foundation. That is where we will be holding this conference as well. So really hope to see everyone there.
Got it. Okay, safe drives home. Meeting adjourned.
Bye, everyone.